Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the owner, founder, and CEO of Davis Marketing Firm LLC. As always, it's Victory Davis. Hope you guys didn't miss me for 10 days, but I have some good content for you guys, you owners and you managers out there. Last week we talked about the 6 steps to manager accountability. This week we're going to talk about the benefits and the advantages of micromanagement and the disadvantages of macro management. Uh, Going forward, I know in today's current business practices, we all talk about how negative micromanaging is and how more positive and more beneficial macromanaging is. I would agree to a certain extent. It works out for most companies, and some companies it doesn't. Today, we're going to talk about the opposite. We're going to prove to you guys why micromanaging is actually a good thing and macro is actually bad. So, going forward, some of the benefits of micromanagement is one, it focuses on a specified number of employees. You're not going to give your manager an assignment to develop 100 plus employees. Let's just be honest, they're not going to be able to get that done. In fact, their developmental scale is going to be so low that you're going to think maybe I should fire my manager. And honestly, it's not your team fault. It's not on them. Also, with how business and even science, when you keep your sample size small, you reduce your chance of errors and you also reduce your chance of oversights. So with micromanaging, you don't need to micromanage more than 5 employees, because at that point you're going to run yourself thin as a manager and or owner, and you're also going to run your employees thin because you're trying to micromanage 10 plus employees and you don't have enough time in your business day to actually micromanage them. Next, it allows for true hands-on development. What I mean by that is that you're going to groom these employees, these 5 or less employees. You're going to micromanage them directly into the culture of the business of what you guys have already built for X amount of years. So if you guys have built on dedication, hard work, overtime, therefore, and so on, you want to micromanage your employees to see the benefits of your core goals of your company. It pretty much is going to ensure your leaders for tomorrow, because they know exactly what you've done to get into your spot currently, and they know what it takes to continue operating in that spot once they get there, because you've groomed them to get exactly to where you want them to be. Also, it also personalizes that growth curve. It involves how we like to call it in business. Are you empathetic? Can you show some form of empathy for your customers? Well, in this case, can you show some form of empathy for your colleagues or your subordinates? Can you show them that, hey, it's okay to make a mistake? I made that same mistake. Let's talk about how we can learn from it and what that mistake is going to allow you to do going forward. It's going to also show what the company is looking for going forward. Again, as I did just say, so when it's their turn and it's their turn to micromanage the other team coming in, again, they know what you guys are looking for. You micromanage them to how you want them to be and what you want them to look for in other employees or potential teammates, subordinates that they're going to then micromanage. So overall, it should be a trickle-down system to where you do it for them, they do it for them, and they do it for them. The system should never change except for when it's changing towards different styles of learning, and we'll get into that later. Most important is that overall, with micromanaging, this is important on both parties. As I did just say, you need to take into account how these people learn. So what worked for your first 5 employees is not going to work for employee number 6. The first 5 employees may have been auditory and kinesthetic learners. That everything you did for them worked the exact same way. You can't bring that same micromanaging style to employee number 6, because employee number 6 is a visual learner. You have to show them, also while telling them, also while allowing them to be hands-on. That's what an effective micromanager would do. Last but not least, the most important thing about micromanagement is time sensitive. This is not something that you want to do for the duration of that employee's time at your company. You don't want to micromanage them every day for a year. Just being honest, that employee wouldn't make it a year. If you micromanage them every day for a year, they would probably be gone after 3 months. So the max amount of time you want to do a micromanaging experiment there, I'm going to call that, is for 60 days. I call this the warming up period. You're going to see how they are going to respond to what the job is actually asking them to do, because you're going to hit them with everything that you've been hit with the case-by-case issues, the frequently asked question issues. You're going to throw it all at them so they see exactly what is expected of them in this role. Most importantly, you do not want to add stress and or add pressure during the micromanaging warm-up period. You want it to be easy, you want it to be informative, and you want it to be educational. At the same time, you want them to have a real and true understanding of what the job is. When you micromanage correctly, you actually are micromanaging your leaders for tomorrow. Just a little snippet on this. Again, as I did say, remember you want to pay attention to their style of learning. Again, that's auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. You're gonna, when you focus on those strengths, you're gonna see that going forward, those same employees or subordinates that you micromanaged to be managers, they are going to know how to delegate tasks going down forward. So just keep that in mind. Moving forward, the disadvantages of macromanagement. No one can ever see this being a disadvantage because we all love it. We love being left alone by our boss. We love being able to just do it on our own, and we love being able to just go to work and go home and not be bothered by our boss. On the flip side of that token, we actually hate when that boss who's macromanaging us comes up to us and tells us that we're doing something wrong. Because what? We're assuming that we're already doing it right because no one has came up to us to inform us that we're doing it wrong. So the disadvantages of macromanagement, is that it doesn't focus on true development, and it forces employees in those roles to learn without managerial guidance. And what that turns into, it turns into very high turnover rates. Let's just be honest. How many times have you quit a job or wanted to quit a job that you felt you weren't properly trained for, or you felt that you weren't doing a good job because no one was giving you that positive feedback or saying, hey, I like the way you do that, or that's exactly what we're looking for. You often will go to work confused. Micromanagement actually eliminates the most important thing in business, or just being tied to some type of management team or subordinates anyway. It eliminates true team camaraderie. You're not going to trust anybody. If as a manager who's macromanaging you, if they come up to you and try to give you coaching on something and you haven't seen that manager for 90 days, are you going to trust what they're saying to you? Or are you going to think like, I haven't seen you in 90 days, where is this coming from? I haven't got any positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, so at this point this is just reinforcing what? And that's where the macromanaging becomes very problematic, because you're losing that trust amongst each other. It develops the, as I like to say, quote unquote, every man for themselves attitude. When you develop every man for themselves attitude, no group or no one man is going to actually be working towards the team goal. Again, going back to team camaraderie. It's just not going to be there. So we call that in macromanagement, as most people know what this is, we're going to weed them out. We're going to weed out the bad employees and keep only my top performers. Of course, that looks great at first, but your top performers could go and be top performers at another company. You didn't take the time to build that relationship, to build that team camaraderie, so they buy into the team's goal as a micromanager would have done, and they're going to keep and retain that top talent because they developed that top talent. They made that top talent, as opposed to macro-managing them. They were already top talent, so they can go to another company and still be top talent. And it just overall creates bad word of mouth. What I mean by that is positive word of mouth does not travel as fast as bad word of mouth. You're going to hear oftentimes, hey, is that company a good company to work for? Bad management will make any company bad to work for. I would tell, and I have told, 100 people that this is a terrible company to work for, at a bad job that was poorly managed, and jobs that were greatly managed and had great team camaraderie. I maybe told a handful of people about them because I felt like that was a great opportunity that I don't want everybody to have the chance to have. Make your company an opportunity that everyone wants, but not everyone has that chance to have. So in closing, while macro management tactics have been more prominent in recent business practices, its shortcomings have often been overlooked, whereas macro management, it actually only focuses on auditory learners rather than the kinesthetic and the visual learners. You're always going to lose out on top tier talent when you macro manage, because that top tier talent will leave you for a better job. And when you focus on those top performers, it's always 100% going to increase your turnover rate. Again, if you guys have any questions or concerns, please leave your comments down below. I do return in response to my comments. Always, if you are looking to get any type of businesses legalized, you need business services, please contact me at 208-891-3563, or you can reach us at Davis Marketing Firm LLC at gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night.